Hello everybody, Newbornkilik here, welcoming you back to another awesome Zelda Theory. This time I have an awesome theory for you that I think you are going to just love to pieces, assuming you love the champions being in pieces. A little bit dark way to just bring the mood down right away. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about Malice, and why Malice was actually the cause of the death of all four of the champions. Basically making it so that they stood absolutely no chance against the blights that were sent upon them. Now first off, we should review what is Malice. Now Malice is a purple-black gooey substance found in Breath of the Wild. A couple different stats on it are that it does about 1/2 heart a second, which is nothing to scoff at. That is actually a lot of damage for something that's just kind of laying around randomly, and you definitely don't want to stand in it too long or you will find yourself with an untimely demise. Malice also pierces all kinds of armor and protection. This includes Daruk's protection, so keep that in mind. That'll be very important for later. Malice also seems to stick to things, as we can see throughout Hyrule. We see it on like ceilings, which is something that would only be able to like stick up there somehow, and that would be important. We actually be talking about it sticking to different things, so that'll be important for later, so keep that in mind. And we also know that it can apparently spread from what I will call a mother point, kind of like the, like the nucleus of the cell and then everything else around it. It kind of has the same thing going on. It has like a main hub and then everything else, it spreads from there, and that's kind of extra. And as long as you kill the mother point, quote unquote, of the Malice, then all the Malice attached to it will poof away and be gone. With this information, we also know that Malice seems to be a living entity capable of spawning creatures in its own defense, which is actually pretty intelligent. So Malice isn't incredibly dumb. It does have at least the basic instinct to spread itself and further its own cause, basically. But going back to the whole sticking to things part, Link can actually walk through the Malice, but it does slow him down a bit. However, he doesn't sink into it if he stops completely. This to me kind of seems like maybe the Malice is, it gets to a certain point and then it hardens over, and then it like secretes more Malice as a way to spread and stick to other things. This would give kind of that sloshiness effect that we see whenever Link is going through the Malice, but also give Link something to stand on and not just sink directly into the Malice if it were all gooey and icky like we think it might be. But now I know why you're all asking. Let's get to the point of this video and how in the world it managed to kill all of the champions, or at least give them a very harsh disadvantage in their fight during the Blights, which is a very strange sentence. But moving forward, Ganon sends out the Blights and steals all of the Sheikah technology. We're left to assume at about the same time, so let's go ahead and assume that he does that at the same time. He sends out the Blights and he takes over the Divine Beasts, and all the Guardians that are queuing up to fight Ganon are actually on his side now. We can kind of see that all this happens at one time, so if we assume that the Blights are sent out at this time as well, we can kind of assume that it wouldn't be too strange to say that Malice was actually used to transport the Blights safely into the Divine Beasts. Naturally, this would have caused some kind of impact that looks like an explosion when coming into contact with the Divine Beast. Bear in mind that Malice does seem pretty sticky, so if Malice is sticky, it would easily stick to a champion that would be caught completely unawares at this point. And remember, Malice does 1/2 hearts of damage every single second with absolutely no form of defense, effectively putting a death sentence on whoever it's stuck to. Malice kind of reminds me of something like napalm, and the more that you try to get it off, the worse the situation just becomes. Like, if you try to scrub it off with your hands, well, now you have Malice or napalm on your hands and your arm or wherever you're trying to get it off of, and it's just a huge problem altogether. Also, when you take into consideration, Malice would inhibit the ability to swim or fly. This basically puts Mipha and Revali in the dirt as soon as they are stuck. Because I would assume those two are basically nothing without their movement abilities, their flying or swimming. Which, now that I think about it, poor Mipha, I don't think there was any water in that, When you need water to be super effective as a fighter, that's kind of gonna hurt your chances of survival in the first place. But putting that aside, now Malice's interaction with electrical-based attacks could be kind of interesting. As we see with Thunderblight Ganon, he seems to be able to control lightning at his will, perfectly fine, so it might make some kind of sense that Malice would actually act as a sort of dampening towards electricity, which kind of goes hand in hand with our idea that it's kind of like a gel. I mean, all this is kind of up in the air, truth be told, but that's not really the important part. The important one is actually Daruk's protection. Daruk's protection is basically the final nail in the coffin as to why this theory makes total sense to me. Also, as a side note, it's very unclear if the Blights had their elemental abilities before defeating the champions, or if they got them from the champions. It's pretty difficult to know, but it'll be important later, so keep that in mind. But anyway, as I was talking about, Daruk's protection seems to be the final nail in this theory. Bear in mind that Daruk's protection would defend against any striking attacks or bludgeoning attacks that the Fire Blight may have had, and his natural resistance to fire. Bear in mind, he is a Goron, so he's going to be resistant to fire. As we see in Majora's Mask, Gorons can actually withstand lava safely. They can roll around in it and be perfectly fine. This is further given cause to the fact that Yunobo, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but Yunobo is actually used as a cannonball against the Divine Beast, and remember how much lava there is around that area? He easily could have fallen into the lava, and you'd think that would have been a calculated risk they would have figured out. And if lava were going to be a problem for the Goron, then they probably would have, not taken that risk, at least in my opinion. That makes perfect sense to me. Oh, and then there's the fact that Daruk is literally wearing a chain at all times. A chain basically near lava, so that's got to be one hot chain. I know it's kind of a weird point to bring up, but still, it kind of all adds to the idea that Fire Blight would be incredibly ineffective against Daruk. He has nothing that would actually be able to deal any sort of severe damage to Daruk, other than his giant blade, but as we covered, Daruk's protection would take care of that. But I know you're going to say, Newbornkilik, there's a limit to how many times that Daruk's protection can be used, and yes, that is true. For Link, there is a limit of times that it can be used. However, it's kind of implied that a more direct inheritance of the skill through, a bloodline, say. Yunobo seems to be able to use this skill all that he wants, which is good for him. He's kind of a coward anyway, so maybe he's just had a lot more practice using the skill than either Daruk or Link will ever have, because he's just always toggling it on and off, on and off. But even this kind of makes me think that once this skill is trained, it's nearly an inexhaustible skill. Again, meaning that Fire Blight would really have no answer for Daruk. So the only way that Fire Blight Ganon would actually be able to get the best of Daruk would be through the use of Malice. Or, a sneaky backstab. But let's be honest, if this thing sneaks up on you, you got more problems than just a little bit unaware. You might be a little bit brain dead too. So there you have it. The death of all four of the champions may have been because of a slow and painful, okay, maybe not so slow, but still painful death from Malice. And after all, when you think of it this way, the implications are that the Blights were just there to help the already doomed champions to their grave. So I'd like to take a little bit of time here to kind of clear up a couple things that I may have missed during the initial chunk of the theory, and that's kind of to address and give a couple of ideas over to you in the comments section. First off, why would Malice stick to the champions but not Link? Well, that's a fantastic question if we're being totally honest. It could be that only the initial Malice was, sticky enough to actually stick to something. Link wears more clothes than most of the champions, so that could also be kind of a factor. Or, it could be as simple as, hey, Link has player 1 syndrome. No one really knows, but there's still interesting things to think about and kind of try and plug up some of the plot holes in this theory. And I want to turn that over to all of you, as I said before. What do you think of Malice? Why do you think Malice doesn't stick to Link, even though it can clearly stick to things like stones? Or, it's this intelligent thing, so it's very clear that it can stick to a lot of things, but it won't stick to Link. Why not? I'm curious what you think about that. As always, let me know what you think about Malice and Breath of the Wild. If you have any of your own awesome theories or any ideas for theories you want me to do in the future, definitely let me know below. I'd greatly appreciate it. Real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons, George Kazan III, Mark Comer, Emai, and Milanus. They have been so awesome as to support Newbornkilik, ya guy, right here on Patreon, and I greatly appreciate that. If you'd like to support me on Patreon as well, then I will leave a link below, or hopefully sometime on screen very soon you will see a link for Patreon. If you are new to the channel, I would like to point you towards my other theories. They will also be on screen soon. Or you could check out my Wind Waker Chaos Edition playthrough. It's probably one of my best series that I've ever made, so if you're looking for a place to start, that is definitely a good one. Anyway, again, let me know what you think of the theory, and if you have any potential theories down below. I'd love hearing from all of you. And I want to give a quick thank you for all the support that you've been giving me on the theories thus far. It's been a lot of fun down in the comments theorizing with everybody. But anyway, I am Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.